Proposition 1, Texas property taxes should be assessed at the purchase price and phased out entirely over the next 6 years through spending reductions.
So no, and I'm going to take a quick second on this one because I think this is an important issue that's bubbling up nationwide, which is this idea that property taxes should be abolished because they're funding a bunch of shit that people don't use, namely schools. So you have this sort of movement amongst people who are usually older, whose kids who either moved into a community without kids or whose kids are out of school, who are saying, wow, my property taxes are really high and it's going to schools and I don't use the schools, so I don't want to pay property taxes. That's really what this is hitting at, and that's exceptionally dangerous and exceptionally stupid, okay? Because just because my house hasn't burned down and I haven't needed the fire department doesn't mean that I shouldn't fund the fire department, okay? So hard no on this one, but something that people should kind of have on their radar as something that's going to come.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Before You Speak podcast. I am your host, Derek Peterson, just drinking from the fire hose of my news feed and processing it with this guy. And today I'm going to do double because I have no idea which side you're going to end up being on when I go to edit this. So, this guy over here.
Yeah, well, I'm coming to you from my backup location. I am Elwyn, and the fire hose of my news feed has been suspended or taken off air by the FCC this week. So I've been silent for the last 36 hours.
Really? Were you able to put everything that was missed up on YouTube and it got millions of views later?
12 trillion views. I'm like Mr. Beast all of a sudden.
I was going to say the interview ended up getting probably like 800 times the viewership because of all of this do you
remember we talked about the Streisand effect?
Yeah, that's exactly that.
This is it. This is the Streisand effect.
Yeah, it's funny because I had never heard that before until you said it, and now I've heard it like 3 or 4 times since because it's pretty consistent with everything that's going on in this administration. Hey, let's try to cover this up, and then the cover up makes it 18 times worse for them. So, all right, unless it was like this whole 4D chess thing that they always say they're playing. Unless this whole thing is like they think Talarico is really a weak candidate, and
oh no, it's the opposite.
But I think it's the opposite. I agree.
Yeah.
I think he's more dangerous than Crockett in Texas, which doesn't mean is nothing against Jasmine Crockett. I adore her for everything that she's done and how vocal she is. I just hate that they're running in the same race, but it is what it is. I guess we can only have one good Democrat.
More on that later, right? Yeah, definitely more on that later.
Yeah, let's touch base. We'll come back to the Colbert thing because I want to touch base on that too. But the Epstein files, there's still continued fallout from all of that. There's so much going on. Les Wexner in front of Congress today. What's the guy's name that bought the New Mexico ranch? The
Huffines? Don Huffines.
Yeah, whose son also works for the White House. So again, just all of this, inbreeding amongst the Epstein elite class is continuing to happen. And then New Mexico, thank God, is at least trying to do something. They passed some legislation, I think, over the week or a couple days ago that said that they can actually search the property, which was a huge misstep by the FBI initially, because that property was known for some of the most egregious offenses based on what some of the survivors had come out and said. And this property was never searched. Like there was nothing that came of it. So the cover up on all of this stuff, it just keeps getting worse, dude. And honestly, the farther you dig down these holes, like the more hopeless it starts to feel. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that it's not that I disagree with you. It's that I think we're on the other side of the cover up. I think they've tried to cover this up so much and so poorly that now everybody looks at everything as a cover up. If it has Epstein's name attached to it within like 3 degrees of separation. Everybody just assumes that this is a cover up, which means that now there's kind of three camps that people can fall into. There's the I don't want to say or do anything about it, which is most of the Republican Party and probably too much of Democratic leadership. And then there's the people who see political advantage to going crazy about it, which, okay, look, cynical or whatever, go after it, right? Like I don't give a shit if Ro Khanna is being cynical about this or not. I don't think he is, or Thomas Massey. I don't think they are. I think they're
Yeah.
genuine. But that way something gets done. Like maybe the governor of New Mexico is like, no, there's political benefit for me to search this house.
Yeah.
And then there's the third camp, which is people who are, normal and just generally outraged by everything and want to get to the bottom of it. But I think more and more people are just like, things are happening in the right direction. Les Wexner testified today behind closed doors, but his opening statement is out, and I read like half of it before we started. And right at the beginning, he's like, "Let me tell you about who I am. I'm 88 years old, bro. Nobody cares. Okay, an
Yeah.
88-year-old shitbag is still a shitbag." Uh,
Yeah.
so more and more and more people are around the world for sure being held to account, and that just the walls start to close in on the people doing the cover up, and I think that's what's happening now, and that's good.
Yeah. Dude, this is the thing I can't get out of my head, and this is why this has impacted me so much. Is I just imagine, like I imagine a little girl in an orphanage in Poland or one of these countries where a mom had a kid that you know she couldn't take care of, gives it up. This kid ends up getting pushed into a wealthy guy's hands, thinking that they're going to, you know, experience something vastly different than what they experience. And dude, just the thought of a young, like 8 or 9 year old girl getting put into these situations and thinking that she's going somewhere special and then getting molested, raped, and potentially killed afterwards, the my heart just shatters. Like it's almost unbearable to think about. I want to cry right now even just thinking about it. Like the atrocities that these motherfuckers did, if this goes unpunished, it I have to believe that there's an afterlife, and this is the reason I believe in hell. And I don't know any other way to get around it and skirt justice because the uh the thought of what those girls were experiencing and what they were told potentially at the behest of wealthy men that can just get away with anything, like, nah, I can't. I
Yeah.
can't just set this aside. I can't just lay it down and be like, yeah, I can sweep this one under the rug. I can't. I just
Yep.
literally can't do it. So,
Yeah, I mean, you wear your heart on your sleeve more than I do, which is awesome, and part of what I think makes us a good pair together for this. I look at it, and we both have daughters, and
yeah.
so I have a 13 and an 18-year-old. And so I've had plenty of conversations with other, young, children who are girls, right? Who are 11 and 12 as they would come over. If you talk to someone that age, you can you can see how easily they can be, how gullible they can be, how innocent they still are, and how they can
Yeah.
just
Ugh.
how they can just they don't have the frontal cortex to make the right decision, and to see that and decide to pollute it for your own disgusting, filthy, you know, uses is just it's I can't imagine how anybody could do that. It is like it is in some ways worse than killing someone. At least when you kill someone, their suffering ends when that's over. With
I'm
this,
convinced
it's
that they
just
did. I'm convinced
yeah,
that a
but
lot
like
of these girls. And dude, there's nothing in this world that makes me want to turn green and smash some shit more than this. And when you when you are a predator and you prey on the weakest and the most
yeah.
vulnerable, there's a special place for you. And there's nothing in my life that I have wanted more than justice over this last this last little bit, like reading what's coming out, and where there's smoke, there's fire. And I pray to God that the people that we've appointed, like, do not let up on this. Like like I can't, I have to trust that there's enough good in the world and that people cannot be bought off on for everything. And this is one of those things that I pray and hope that there is somebody that cannot be bought and is willing to sacrifice their own life and safety to capture these people, because this is awful. So
Yeah.
we need to find the bodies, and there we need justice. But yeah, I, I won't let up on the Epstein stuff, and I hope other people don't either, because it should not be let up on until people are behind bars. So
Yeah, and I think where we are, they wanted everybody to stop when they released the 3 million documents, and Todd Blanche was like, "We're done." I think that was the point where they were like, "Cool, I think we got this. I think we'll get away with it now," and they're not getting away with it now. And now I think it becomes harder and harder to see an exit ramp for them. And I hope that they recognize that too. But and that's why I'm like, cool, the walls are closing in. Keep the pressure up. Never let up on this.
yep. Exactly. So, well, we'll do a nice light transition from there to the, but, oh God, dude, I hate where we're at as a country. Let's talk. Let's jump into the Colbert, Talarico. I think that's a good place to start today's conversation because, we saw the FCC come out and say, they're going to start enforcing the rules that if you give one person time, which oddly enough, Jasmine Crockett's been on Colbert twice, I think, in the last couple of years. So it's not like he hasn't platformed Jasmine Crockett, but him having Talarico on, the FCC comes out and says, calls CBS, you're not allowed to do this. So Colbert does what Colbert does because he has nothing to lose, and announces it on live television or semi-live television, pre-recorded live television day of, and Talarico's interview goes viral right before the primaries here in Texas, which honestly may be the thing that takes him over the top. So, what are your thoughts?
It sure won't hurt. I think you have to add into that review that he was on The View last week,
Right.
and they sent a letter to ABC also about his appearance on The View, that it violated that same equal air rule, which exists. It doesn't really apply to the Late Show, like it exists more for news broadcasts. It also demands only that the other campaign has had the opportunity to come on. So we don't know. Maybe Crockett was like, "I don't want to come on." We don't know, but
Yeah.
so that's twice now that Talarico has been the subject of, great, he's on Colbert. Nobody would have paid attention to that shit
Yeah.
without this, right? Colbert's nightly viewership is like 2.7 million around, right? This has something like 12 million views and climbing across all the different platforms. He's getting 4.5x the exposure because of this.
And
And
that's not including the clips.
and
That's it.
that's not including the clips. That's people watching the whole thing.
And
Uh,
the people that watch the Colbert Show are mostly liberal because he's very vocal about that. These clips going viral have far more of an impact on him because these clips go to get into other people's algorithms far more easily than getting, a Republican to watch late night Colbert, you know?
yeah, there is no way that this is part of a plan to boost Crockett,
Yeah.
right? Sorry, to boost Talarico. Sorry, this is
Oh, yeah.
there's no way that the plan here was to boost Talarico somehow by like some 4D chess reverse psychology shit. Because first of all, there are ads running all over Texas now that have all the Republican talking heads when Crockett first jumped in saying Crockett is the one the Republicans want. That's a gift to Republicans. And we'll get into all the reasons why in a minute. But early voting started yesterday. If there are, to the extent that there are, and I'm sure there are a bunch of sort of uninformed people who are voting adjacent, who are like primary adjacent, who are considering the idea of voting in a primary, but normally wouldn't, who are also anti-Trump,
Yeah.
right? Then they're sitting here and they're going, there's no conclusion to draw other than, boy, Trump really doesn't want Talarico on these shows. That and that alone is good enough for me. And I'm going to go on. He must like Talarico must have Trump kryptonite in his pocket because I'm going to go out and vote for him. So I think
Yeah,
it's
you mean real
it's
values? He has Trump kryptonite because he actually like yeah, he actually
yeah, but they're like I don't even think it gets that deep, right? Like
Yeah,
this is the kind of Trump isn't worried about Talarico because Talarico has real values. Trump is worried about
yeah,
Talarico because Talarico's a soft-spoken white guy who can appeal to white Texans.
fair point.
That's and the voters who would go to the polls now and maybe vote for Talarico that wouldn't either also don't know that Talarico has real values. They're voting against Trump.
Yeah.
None of it matters. Talarico's no dummy, right? He's all over this shit, fundraising it, saying Trump is trying to silence us.
Oh,
It
yeah,
has it has to
he
be
had
an
the
incredible
videos out.
boon.
Yeah, he had the videos out, but, like, it looked like probably as he was leaving Colbert.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, let's get that up. His team is just on top of that. That's just
So
that was
they're
what
like fanning the social media manager and the comms director for Talarico because he fainted with delight.
oh, yeah, yeah, correct. No one has been more excited. That's like winning the coin toss in overtime during a football game. You're like, all right, like our odds of winning just went up by like 25%. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just how it goes. So let's talk this race since we're already on it. Talarico versus Crockett. How would you break down this race? Other than why in God's name are we breaking down this race? One of them should have ran against Abbott, which is dumb as shit that we're having this conversation. But of course we are because this is the state of our politics at the moment. So, but how do you see this race panning out? And if you want to share which way you vote, go for it.
sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I think these are the two kind of brightest stars in the Texas Democratic landscape, certainly like on a national level, because we're talking about we're talking about the Senate, so we're talking about a national office.
Yep.
And yeah, they would have been much, much better off dividing and conquering and going after the governor's office with one of them. I think to me, this race is really interesting. I put in our notes, right? The ghost of identity politics. Uh,
Yeah.
these are both like, I'm a progressive lefty. These are both really, really strong progressive lefties. They don't necessarily check every progressive lefty box, right? Not important as much for me, but like on the progressive side, funding for Israel, I think they're both a little squishy on that stuff. And, do you call what's going on in Gaza genocide or not? I think they're both kind of trying to walk the line there. But
Mhm.
there's no litmus tests in voting, and you're never going to get the candidate that checks every one of your boxes. So to the progressive left, to the Democrats, these are two like really, really good candidates. They're good on camera. They're good in a soundbite. They've been around for a while, so they have some name recognition in Texas. Crockett more than Talarico. So what does this come down to for me? Honestly, who can beat Cornyn or Paxton in a
Yeah.
statewide Senate election? And you just we've spent so long now. The Democrats leaned in so long to identity politics, meaning we're going to nominate a female vice president because, in large part, she's a female, right? We're going to really, really make someone's identity an asset that we're leaning on when we select someone for office. And we talked about that as Democrats for so long, and it was all part of DEI. And it's not wrong. Like I don't have a problem with the theory, but it didn't work for sure. So now there's this backlash, right? Like, can we talk about identity politics in a race like this, and and deciding who gets elected? And fuck yes, how can you not? Okay, Crockett is great. When she's going off on someone, when she went off on Pam Bondi, she almost made
Dude,
Bondi cry,
that
right?
there's like that was like one of the only moments during that entire thing where I felt like Pam Bondi might have second guessed her life decisions. Like there
Yeah,
was a moment where caught on camera where she like had to reach up and like brush her eye, and I'm like, maybe she has a soul, maybe.
yeah. Yeah, Crockett is a bulldog. She is super strong. She knows how to question someone. She knows how to create a soundbite. She knows how to get people engaged. Calling Abbott Governor Hot Wheels is fucking hilarious. It just is. Uh, she's a tremendous candidate.
Yeah.
Talarico is a tremendous candidate. He's done really good things in the Texas Senate. He's had really good sound bites on some of the like 10 commandments in schools bills that were up there. He speaks more softly than Crockett, but he speaks with a very defined Baptist. He's Baptist, right? Uh,
I think he grew up in a Southern Baptist church, but if I
uh,
had to guess, I don't know if he subscribes to any like denomination
no, I think
fully.
his grandfather, I believe, was a Baptist preacher.
His
Uh,
grandfather's a Baptist preacher. I grew up in a Baptist church, but I don't subscribe to the Baptist church as I would call myself an evangelical free. So if I had to guess, if you had to ask him what he subscribed to, I don't think he would say he's a Baptist. I think he'd probably say he's an evangelical free, which means he's not subject to a denomination specifically. But
I would
I,
think he would
I,
lean in, because that's part of his values is to say, this is who I am and this is what that means. And that's what he's so good at is
yeah,
saying, no, no, no. He is being unapologetically evangelical in whatever way and tying that so well to progressive values. Because to me, as a progressive, this shit should be easy for a Christian. Feed the poor, right?
yeah.
Feed the hungry, heal the sick, clothe the poor, right? Love thy neighbor, welcome in immigrants,
This
right?
is
This,
This is exactly why I'm more left now. This is,
right.
like historically, like the look, I am somebody that grew up like exploring my faith because I had to, growing up in Utah and not being Mormon. And dude, when you hear somebody that speaks like Talarico does, it's like it's just soothing to the soul because I'm like, man, these are the actual principles that Jesus taught. Like, so if you actually believe that Jesus walked the earth, like he was completely counterculture, he was doing the opposite of what most of the Christian churches in Texas do, trying to create some nightclub type vibe, exclusivity in this club. It's like, no, it's the opposite. The entire point of Jesus hanging on a cross was that he was saying, dude, you're all equal. Like there is no more rules. Every person is sinned and fallen short. So like you're all the same in this category, and which means that the people that there's two rules, love God and love your neighbor. And those are the primary things that you will be judged on when all
Yeah.
of this is over. And
Yeah. So I
that
think,
is very at the moment, that's very liberal.
yeah, well, it certainly should be.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
always has been to me, but that appears to be controversial in some way that I'll never understand. But so Talarico leans into that in a way that people understand and that people
Yeah.
should be able to follow and appreciate. So I think they're both really, really great candidates in their own way. And as a Democrat, I think that I would feel extremely well represented right now by either of them. So the
Yeah.
question comes down to who can win a statewide election in Texas, right? So when we were talking about Mondami, we talked around that time about Graham Plattner and Talarico also, and I said that Talarico is like a Texas Mamdani, and the reason I
Yeah.
made that analogy was like Mamdani can't win in Texas. Mamdani's never going to win an election in Texas, and Talarico is never going to win the mayoral election in New York City because the populations are so completely different. So can Talarico go out to West Texas or to Tarrant County or to some of those areas in Dallas, like that area that just voted in the Democratic House state senator that we talked about last time? Can he go in there and follow that up and speak to these people who swung and have them say, you know what? I already you know popped my cherry voting for a Democrat a couple weeks ago. I like this guy too, and I'm going to vote for him too. Yeah, I think he can. And I just feel like Crockett will have a much, much harder time doing that because, sadly enough, a firebrand African American woman is simply there's too many people in a state like Texas who are just going to shut that out. Okay. And
Yeah.
so what I worry about a little bit is this idea that like, so I'm gonna vote for Talarico, okay? Basically for that reason, right? So
Yeah,
now the ghost of identity politics is like, I'm not a racist or a misogynist because I look at Crockett and Talarico and I think that demographically Talarico is a much better fit in Texas than Crockett. That's just my take on the state of Texas, and I don't think necessarily that it's wrong because look who gets elected in Texas. A whole lot of white people get elected to statewide office in Texas. And it's a very religious state. People here, go to church, they worship, right?
yeah,
So having someone who doesn't give them the icks for any terrible reason. I think give somebody giving you the icks because they're a woman or because they're a different race than you is awful, right? But it happens, and I think that we're just foolish if we ignore that. So, as a
yeah,
Democrat in Texas, I think it's foolish to ignore the question of facing two candidates who are really equal in their
yeah,
qualifications. The question then becomes who can win? And is it wrong to say that a soft spoken white Baptist grandson of a Baptist minister has a better shot who speaks Bible extremely fluently and ties it into progressive beliefs extremely well, has a better shot than an outspoken, firebrand, really smart black woman from Houston? I don't think that's a crazy place to land at all. And that's why I'm voting for Talarico. And I really hope that whatever undercurrent there is of, Crockett's better and you're UL when you're just voting for Talarico because he's a white guy, like, yeah, everything I just said is a long way of saying that I'm voting for the white guy. I get it.
mm.
But I'm
Yeah,
voting
but
for the
that's
white
kind of
guy because I think he can win.
yeah, that's like saying, look, nobody is if you look at if anybody ever said LeBron James is not a great athlete, you are an idiot by all accounts. But if you put the LeBron James on an ice hockey rink, uh, he may not look like a great athlete. And look, there is a time and place for everybody's like where you shine. And yeah, unfortunately, we live in potentially one of the most racist states, bigoted states in our country. And yeah, you put a you if you want to play in their game, then you put a white guy in that's can win it. And that's as shitty as it is to say, it's the world we live in. And by ignoring it, we fall into the same patterns that we've always fallen into, and we end up with no change, and we end up with the same regime that we've always had. So I'm
Yeah, and
all
I'll
for that understanding. Yeah,
I'll follow your basketball analogy. I mean, we can have wonderful debates about who is better, Magic or Larry Bird, right? Me thinking that, if I grew up in Boston, right? People in Boston thinking that Larry Bird is better than Magic doesn't mean that they don't respect Magic or think that Magic's great.
yeah,
And people in LA thinking that Magic is better than Bird doesn't mean that they don't respect Bird. But there is, in that whole debate, there was this sort of racial undertone of where you are impacting how you view things. And
yeah.
the simple, and I wish that I could be convinced that I was wrong, but I don't think that the statement that Texas has still got a whole bunch of racism running through it. I don't think that that's a wrong that I'm gonna that's a hill that I'm gonna get killed on. I feel like people would,
No,
by and
they
large,
even know.
agree.
Look at the map. Look at the maps they just gerrymandered. There's a
Right,
reason they did it the way they did. I mean, they all know too. So,
right. So
yeah,
to
it's
take
not.
that
This
as
isn't.
fact,
Yeah,
yeah,
this isn't a
to take that
hidden
as
thing.
fact and say this is who I'm voting for. It's like that's it, man. Like
Yeah,
if it were New York, I'd vote for Crockett, and I'd feel great about it. But
yeah.
it's not New York; it's Texas, and
She wins in a lot of other places. Texas is a hard one for her, and she is fantastic. And I've been following her for a long time. I've actually been following her for longer than I've followed Talarico because she's been so outspoken through all of this. And one of the few Democrats that I'm like, man, I love listening to her talk because she talks like somebody that when she speaks, I want to listen because she's saying the truth, and she's also not opposed to being as aggressive as the right is, like and Talarico is similar. It's so funny, man. we talk about values, right? And Talarico's values are closer to Mondani's values than they are to any of the Republicans running against Talarico for his Senate seat.
Well,
Like,
I take issue with that because that assumes that the Republicans have values. That those two guys have any values whatsoever.
well, let's jump into that because that's our next topic of conversation. It's likely Paxton versus Cornyn, which I again like. I mean, seeing who we have as president, this isn't shocking, but the fact that Ken Paxton can throw his name in the hat and become the front runner like this is like utterly mind blowing. So, what's your thought on this?
I completely agree. I mean, he's winning. The last poll I saw was like 51-40. Uh, so I think Paxton's winning. Trump hasn't endorsed in this one yet. I think because he's just like, fuck it. I don't need to pick a loser
Yeah,
on
it's
on
Texas.
this one. Right. Uh, but I mean, Ken Paxton has an incredible rap sheet. I mean, this guy has been indicted and under investigation. I moved to Texas 10 years ago. He's been under investigation or under indictment for the entirety of that time. The corruption that's been exposed by people that work for him is unbelievable, right? And when they exposed the corruption, when there were whistleblowers in his office, he just went ahead and fired them. The guy is the most he's like a caricature of just white collar criming and corruption, and we all know about it, and it's played out in the media for a decade, at least the decade that I've been here, and he's gonna beat Cornyn, right? Like, I really
Yeah,
think he's probably gonna beat Cornyn because people are tired of Cornyn. Cornyn's like, he's a
he
normie old guy.
I was gonna say I knew nothing about him until, probably a year ago when I started paying attention to what this race was going to be. And yeah, I'm like, you could have to be honest, I didn't even know his name. So yeah, he seems pretty vanilla. So just name recognition alone, Paxton probably has a more of a shot with the Republicans based off of that. And this is coming from somebody that was completely uh checked out until last year, right? So
Yeah, well, Paxton had a really, sort of he had a great time when Biden was president, suing the Biden administration for everything, suing them on the border, suing them about bathrooms. If he could sue Biden, he sued Biden. So he's just a hero to the Donald Trump MAGA crowd.
yeah,
And Cornyn is just Cornyn is a product of a bygone era. It's like a Schumer versus AOC primary on the Democratic side.
yeah.
And I was shocked when Paxton jumped in. I couldn't believe, like, why would he try? He can't possibly win. And I'm
Same. We do you think we would ever have a child rapist and pedophile as our president? So like,
yeah.
I mean, at this point, anything can happen.
Now, there's no question that Paxton is the better candidate for the Democrats.
Yeah, that's
It
the one. That's the part about this that I think actually, like, look, if Talarico wins the primary, him running against Paxton, man, like, you could not have more opposite opposed values from one another than these two. And those two, I hope they debate in person because, like, that would actually be fantastic TV. So
I would be stunned if Paxton did that, you know,
he'd be an idiot
stunned.
to
Yeah.
agree to it. Yes.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the what you just hit on about sort of Texas Republicans, I think is worth noting, right? They are not at all moderating in the face of just cratering popularity around the country. It's not just Paxton who's just a nut job through and through. I don't even know if he's a nut job. He's a piece of shit through and through. Uh,
But this
but
is you. Oh, sorry. Finish your point because I want to follow it up with something though because this is my frustration with the Republican Party right now.
yeah, I mean, I think I was just going to mention for people who didn't know, like Paxton got divorced a couple of years ago from his wife, who is a state senator in Texas, right? She's in office. He, there was some vote. I don't know if it was an impeachment vote on him or not. It might have been where she like kind of was on the fence. right? He's such a piece of shit that his wife
Was
almost
about
voted to impeach him before divorcing him because he was having, any number of affairs.
Yeah, but this is, you know, you are admittedly, progressive left. I am admittedly not fully there. I am a values proposition. I will align myself with anybody. Look, we don't have to see eye to eye on everything. We have to see eye to eye on the fact that I believe we like what we believe is right and wrong are on par, and our priorities around our values are. I don't subscribe to I'm just going to vote left for the sake of voting left. I will vote for the best candidate that I believe aligns with my values. And my biggest frustration, and this was something I had to wrestle with through my 20s, right? Because you had guys who was what was the guy that ran against Obama the first time? His name's slipping my mind.
McCain, John
McCain.
McCain.
Yeah. There was a genuineness in my like, dude, I liked McCain. Like there was a like I liked listening to him talk a lot about his policies. Like there was I agreed with. He was an old school Republican, uh, you know, uh, smaller government. Like let's talk about like, balancing everything, not overspending. Like there's a lot of that I genuinely align with. And I'm like, I agree on. But I have not seen in a very long time a Republican candidate since Trump has kind of taken over the party that aligns with my values. And the Republicans have lost that. And this race, Paxton winning over Cornyn, and he will, is exactly why. Like you want to keep pushing, if the Republicans want to keep pushing people out of their party, keep doing this shit because these aren't good people. These are people that are just in general lying, cheating, stealing, and doing everything they can to get more money and more power. And they have zero interest in actually serving the public. And what's refreshing about Talarico and what's refreshing about Mamdani and where our values align is that these are people are at least able to put on a good enough front at the beginning of all of this that says, man, I care about other people and I want what's best for my constituents. If you vote me in, I'm going to fight for you. Paxton, none of these other people, dude, even their commercial ads are, Trump loves me and I'm hard on crime.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
what's
it.
going on, yeah, it does. I think the signs, the yard signs, the road signs they seem to be, who can in the span of like 8 words seem more MAGA, more conservative Republican. Uh it's the lean in is wild to me given what's going on. But the thing to
What is
me
it?
about that,
I have orange spray tan on my face because of
yeah, that's right.
I was
That's
going
right.
down on the president. Like I
I
have no idea what other, yeah,
look at
how
my
much.
comb over.
God.
Uh the um but I think to that point, right? Like, for me, I find that democratic values generally align with my values more. I also liked McCain. I voted for Obama. Uh, but that's kind of why
Yeah,
it's a little different for me, just because I'm like, no, I don't see that many Republican values that fully align with mine. Certainly, if there's a bucket of 100, like 70 of those values fall on the Democratic side, or policies would fall on the
yeah,
Democratic side for me. But I think what's going on in Texas is, the masks are just off, right? So if you look down ballot on this stuff, and I think that this is a reflection of the values of the Republican Party. I think Paxton is a reflection of the
yeah.
values of the Republican Party. Fight everything, lean heavy on culture war, fight the most important two things, the two most important things you could do are fight culture war battles and fight Democrats.
And
Period.
sue everyone.
Sue as long as they're Democrats, sue
Yes,
everyone,
sue
right?
everyone
The
for everything.
the third thing that's most important if you're an elected official is the grift, and they're not going to talk about that, right? So they're just going to talk about the top two things. And that, at some point you have to be like, well, wait a second, that those must be the values of the party because they keep winning. And if you go down ballot, it gets worse, right? If you go down to like the attorney general race now to replace Paxton, you have Chip Roy, who is a representative from not far from here. He was my representative for a little while, who has, you know, he's in the Thomas Massey mold, right? So there's some good about him when it comes to Epstein. Uh, Trump loved him until Epstein, and now Trump doesn't love him anymore. But he's also just a fight Democrats at every turn guy. And MAGA Mays Middleton, he's running for Attorney General of the state of Texas, who has been, the extent of his legal experience is like 4 years as in-house counsel for his family's oil and gas company. That's the attorney. He believes that's enough to be Attorney General of the state of Texas. That and saying, "I am MAGA Mays Middleton. I'm fucking making it my name." Right? MAGA is his brand. Right? If you go further down
Oh,
ballot, you have for a railroad commissioner, which in Texas is an important thing because that actually regulates the oil and gas industry. No idea why. Uh, you got this guy, Beau French. This guy is, they've been trying to kick him out of the Texas Republican Party because he's too fucking crazy for like Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, right? Beau French last year put out a tweet that said, "Who's the bigger threat, Muslims or Jews?" He's called Crockett a hood rat. He says 2/3 of the country should be deported, right? This guy is just racist scum filth that even the Texas Republican Party is like, this guy is too fucking extreme for me.
yeah,
And he's competitive for for state railroad commissioner, and he's the head, I think, still of the Tarrant County, which is one of the like most important red counties in the state. I think he's
yeah.
still the head of the Tarrant County Republican Party. So when it comes to values, you know, I feel bad because I know a lot of Texan Republicans, and I don't think that they're all racist fucktards. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of
You
them
don't?
seem like really good people who do a good job raising their kids, and I enjoy talking to when I see them. But at some point, okay, if you don't want to be seen as the party of racist kooks, stop electing racist kooks.
Yeah.
Right? It's like if you want to not be called a Nazi, stop doing Nazi shit, Republican Party, right? It's like at some point
Well,
it's distilling down to that.
and this is what I would say to further that is just look, if you're a Christian, stop just voting for a party. If you actually claim to be a Christian, find candidates that align with your values and vote for those. Stop caring about what if it's red or blue, because the red or blue thing is should not matter. And this is why we got here. People subscribe to their political party before their actual beliefs, spiritual beliefs. And it should be reversed. Your values should always come first. And then you find the party and the candidate that aligns with your values, not, oh, I'm going to subscribe to this club and then let them dictate what my values are. And that's what I feel like half of the country has done thus far. And also why, like I refuse to play ball on that side of the fence at the moment. But let's quickly I want to touch before we get into there's two things I want to do before we finish up here is one, touch briefly on the Abbott potential, and I'm pretty sure Gina's probably got the lockdown. Gina, I'm gonna butcher her last name.
Hinojosa.
Hinojosa. I'm pretty sure she's got the Democratic nomination down. I haven't even heard of the other guy. Dell, I think was his last name.
Yeah, she's got all the endorsements. She's been around long enough that she's got, to the
It's
extent
her
there's name
time.
recognition for her,
Yeah.
she's got it.
What's your thoughts on this race?
Yeah, so I don't know if it goes to show how shallow the bench of competitive Democrats is or not, but I really, this is Abbott's fourth. This would be his fourth term, right? This is an incredible amount of time to have the same guy who everybody hates. All the Democrats hate. He can no longer run on, I'm going to fix what's wrong with the state, because he's been in office so long that if you think anything is wrong with the state, it's his fault,
Yeah,
right? The idea of a sort of just, we need to go in another way candidate, it's right there. It's ripe for the picking in a 2026 election. that's going to have turnout. Democrats are going to be motivated to vote. That's the one thing that's really going to help her. But I don't know that much about her. She doesn't, I think you have to be really a policy nerd, and to really, really be excited by her. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's always been this way, though. Right? We've talked about this the last couple of days. It's always been where a politician has to connect. How well you connect with people and how well you get them to want to have a beer with you or whatever, that is a huge part of it. People have to vote. People vote for people that they like,
Yeah,
that they feel like if I were having dinner with this person, that would be great. I want to have dinner with this person. And I don't see that she does it. I'll vote for her. There's a lane, I saw a poll the other day that had her within the margin of error of Abbott. And she will get women, she will get the Latino population, and if the Latino population is really motivated, then sure, there's a world where, at the same time they're sweeping in Talarico and taking the Republican gerrymander and shoving it right back in in the Republicans' faces, where Hinojosa gets to ride that wave. But that's really what she needs to win, I think, is to be able to ride that wave because she's not causing anybody to cross a ballot. And I think that if there's the right Senate candidate, I could see people ballot splitting Abbott and Talarico. Right, being
yeah,
like, I'm not going Paxton, God, that's too much, but I'm also not going Hinojosa, I'll take Talarico because I like him.
yeah. I would agree on that. I think everything I've seen of Gina has been, like I tried to watch a bunch of videos of her speaking, and they nothing grabbed me as far as like, man, I really get behind what she's saying. Like I really want to like champion this person. Uh Maybe I hope that if she like maybe the getting the actual Democratic nomination and once the primaries are done, maybe we start to see more of her. And maybe like to be honest, she needs to probably take some cues from Jasmine Crockett and kind of study up a little bit on like, look, if you're going to get into this game, we need fighters right now, and we need people that are going to really like in the same as kind of how I view the presidential election in 2028. Like we want somebody that's going to be like, we are going after corruption. All we're gonna codify the norms and all of this the cracks that we saw that Trump exposed, and we are going to go after the corruption, and we're going to actually fix some shit. Like we're gonna set term limits. We're gonna uh muck up the Supreme Court and figure out a new system. Like we want somebody that's going to create real change, and I think that Anna Hosa needs to. We need to see some real strong verbiage out of her if she really wants to if she wants to win this. She's got to put on her big boy pants.
Yeah,
So
if the Democrats are smart, if the state Democratic Party is smart, then once these primaries are over, they take, let's say it's Talarico, and Hinojosa just they go statewide together. They're just
yeah,
traveling together so that they are tied together as much as possible, because I could almost see like some complacency on the part of Abbott, uh, like, all right, I got this, and Hinojosa has a lane. Like Republicans have run both houses of the Texas Congress, and they've had the governor chair for like since the late 90s. We're looking at like
yeah,
27, 28 years of complete Republican control. If you can create a compelling enough message for like, no, something's got to change. If Abbott is at all out there talking about changing Texas, right, and fixing Texas, bro, man, you're the guy and have been for a long time. That gives an opening to Hinojosa, but I think she's going to need the wind and the eyeballs of Talarico or Crockett, whoever wins, to boost herself up a little bit.
yeah. And the thing that I think he's pushing right now, which is it doesn't work in any world unless you start an income tax in the state of Texas, is eliminating the property tax. And I have a feeling that this is going to be the thing he stands on. But we're gonna I want to do one thing real quick and see how this goes. I want to rapid fire. We're gonna start with the propositions that are on the Republican side of the ballot, which obviously we probably won't vote on because neither of us are voting for a Republican.
I'm
Although
I'm
maybe
I'm sorry, I'm pulling these up just so that as you read them, I can look at them too.
Yeah, so you can just give a for or against snapshot on these and we'll burn through them really quickly. Just people knowing what these propositions are on each side of the ballot is interesting what Republicans are looking at. And these propositions are nothing more than my understanding is these propositions on the primary ballot are more of a like a questionnaire in essence
Yeah,
for the candidates that are running.
it's
So
an
like
electoral
basic
survey monkey.
yeah, like we want to see these things talked about in the when as you're running. So it's basically firepower for their party to be like so they can pander to their base. So
Yeah.
Proposition 1, Texas property taxes should be assessed at the purchase price and phased out entirely over the next 6 years through spending reductions.
So no, and I'm going to take a quick second on this one because I think this is an important issue that's bubbling up nationwide, which is this idea that property taxes are should be abolished because they're funding a bunch of shit that people don't use, namely schools. So you have this sort of movement amongst people who are usually older, whose kids are who either moved into a community without kids or whose kids are out of school, who are saying, wow, my property taxes are really high and it's going to schools and I don't use the schools, so I don't want to pay property taxes. That's really what this is hitting at. And that's
Mm.
exceptionally dangerous and exceptionally stupid. Okay, because just because my house hasn't burned down and I haven't needed the fire department doesn't mean that I shouldn't fund the fire department. Okay,
Yeah.
so hard no on this one, but something that people should kind of have on their radar as something that's going to come.
Yep. Agreed. Texas should require any local government budget that raises property taxes to be approved by voters at the November general election.
I mean, sure, I don't think that statewide voters should be approving a local tax hike, but
Yeah.
if Eanes wants to raise if Austin wants to raise property taxes, yeah, why not?
Sure. Yeah, I'm not. I'm okay with that. Uh, Proposition 3: Texas should prohibit denial of health care or any medical service based solely on a patient's vaccination status.
I agree with that. I think it's stupid and I think it's solving a problem that doesn't exist, but people should never be denied health care because of race, gender, religious affiliation, or vaccination status.
Good answer, Elwyn. Prop- Proposition 4: Texas should require its public
No,
schools to teach
next.
that. All right. Proposition 5: Texas should ban gender, sexuality, and reproductive clinics and services in K through 12 schools.
So this one, and also by the way, the vaccination one, Proposition 3, I'm going no. Or like I could. What the fuck does this mean? Are there reproductive clinics and services at K through 12 schools? I've got
They
a kid in
do.
middle school and high school. Like they teach it,
They teach
but
it,
are
but
there
there's not
but are there
clinics.
clinics?
I don't think there's,
You
I
can't
think that,
get an abortion at fucking high school. So So I would
correct.
go. This to me is one where I'm going no because I suspect that that language is a Trojan horse for something way, way worse. And they're hinting at some shit that doesn't exist to plant a culture war flag. So I'm going no
Yeah.
because there's alarm bells flying all over the place with the language there.
Yeah. The only way they're going to win the midterms is if they find a way to attack transgender people or abortions. So
That's right.
they've got to finagle something in there. Proposition 6: Texas should enact term limits on all elected officials.
Hard yes. Let's go.
Hard. Yeah, this should be on the other side of the ballot too.
That's right. That's right.
Proposition 7: Texas should ban the large scale export or sale of our groundwater and surface water to any single private or public entity.
So this is one where I'd be like, I don't really know what that means because
Data centers. I have a
Okay,
feeling it's data centers, and I would agree that
then
the
if that's, I mean, yeah, like in the language of it, I agree with. Just the words on the paper, those words I agree with. I want to know more about the problem that they're solving. Data centers make sense. I hadn't thought about that.
Proposition 8, the Texas legislature should reduce the burden of illegal immigration on taxpayers by ending public services for all illegal aliens.
No.
Agreed. Proposition
And
9,
by the way,
oh,
no, humans are humans. Okay,
correct.
like we can talk about our immigration problem without just saying people are fucking inhuman and don't deserve help.
Yeah, I agree. And like the the concept of that and the actuality of that are two very different things. Conceptually, you can sit here and say yes, but if you're with somebody that's hurting and dying and denying them care, that's a completely different thing. And you need to put those two things in context and connect the dots, because watching somebody die and getting refused care because of something like this is complete horseshit. So, proposition number 9. The Republican controlled Texas legislature should stop awarding leadership positions, including committee and subcommittee chairmanships and vice chairmanships, to Democrats.
So this is an interesting one because not the last legislative session, but the one before, the Speaker of the Texas House got bounced out of office on this exact issue because there's been sort of a policy that Democrats get some chairmanships or vice chairmanships, but like we just talked about with Abbott and with Chip Roy and with MAGA Mays Middleton and all these fucking people, uh, this is not Republican governance in the state of Texas has nothing to do with governance. It has to do with grievance and stopping Democrats. That's it. It doesn't it's not policy based. It's grievance and anti-democratic party. So that's what this is. So obviously no.
Yep. Proposition 10. Texas should prohibit Sharia law.
Fucking love Republicans. No, the Sharia law is not a fucking problem in this country. It's not a thing. It's just this fucking ghost that they put out there, like they're coming for your guns to scare the hell out of
And
everybody.
my understanding is that Sharia law isn't even enforceable because uh you would be enforcing another country's laws in essence. So I don't even I'm not that one is I did a
It's
little digging after our conversation just to try to understand it a little more, and I'm like, I still don't fully understand what they're
it's not
talking
really
about.
another country. It's more the hardline law in the Quran, which of course Muslim theocracies adopt, right? So it does become the law in other countries,
Yeah, like
but in more
Iran and Afghanistan, they have some laws that are based around the Sharia law, which but Texas isn't going to govern that because it's law in Iran.
where yeah, and where in Texas who is electing enough, what town is electing enough Muslims in
I
Texas?
think Texas has done a good enough job of keeping those people away from
Yeah,
here because
I
they
think we're
like,
good.
hey, we're trying to rob all of these people of their rights anyway. So like, well, let's make it
This is
clear.
they just throw the term Sharia law out there to fucking scare up old white people.
Yeah, if there's ever been a state that had a no welcome, not welcome sign for a group of people, it's Texas and Muslims.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, let's go to the other side of the ballot real quick. Proposition 1, Texas should expand Medicaid and ensure access to affordable health care for all.
Yes, let's do it.
Yep. Proposition 2, Texans should support humane and dignified immigration policies and pathways to citizenship.
Yep.
Proposition 3, Texans should have the right to make their own healthcare decisions, including reproductive rights.
Yep. That's
Proposition
abortion,
4,
obviously.
yes. Proposition 4, Texas should address the state's housing crisis in affordability and access in both urban and rural communities.
Yes, and this one, it's just funny. Like we talked before about language, and sorry, I'm trying to pull this list up also.
Yeah.
We talked about the language. This is like, you know, Texas should think about affordability crisis. housing is a problem. We should think about this, Texas. And the
Yeah.
Republicans are like, no fucking Democrats in a chairmanship and ban Sharia law. It's like
Correct. Two two very
too
different
bad.
things.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, my feeling, and being somebody that works in real estate, is that the best thing you can do here is to uh like make the red tape, ease regulations in a way that builders can build more efficiently and easily to provide more housing for people. I don't know that I'm for any even when Kamala Harris was talking about the down payment assistance and different things, these work in certain circumstances, but ultimately on a widespread scale, what happens when in a free market? You
Yeah.
give somebody $25,000, they're just going to jack up the price accordingly, and so they're going to wipe away any of the benefit by messing around with the prices. So I don't know that that solves the problem. The problem is solved by you know the market responding and having more houses for sale.
Sorry, I'm laughing not because you're wrong. Everything you're saying is right, but that's a policy conversation.
Correct. Well,
This proposition is not a policy conversation. This is a like, hey, we heard housing's expensive. Maybe we should think about talking about doing something about that one day, I guess. Let's put it in front of a committee of our voters in a primary election. It's like so milk toast.
yeah.
It's like miles away from actual policy.
Which is the crux of why Democrats keep losing elections.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that on another podcast. All right. Proposition 5: Texas should fund all public schools at the same per pupil rate as the national average.
Sure, I don't know enough about it though. That's one where I'm saying yes because most of what the Democrats say I agree with, and Texas ranks is like 42nd in the nation for student funding. So if that results in more funding for students, great.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know enough about it. I am against the voucher program, but
Yeah, me too.
yeah,
But
I don't
that's
know
not
how.
what they're talking about there.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. Proposition 6: Secure online voter registration should be accessible to all eligible Texas residents.
Yep, 42 states already do that.
Yep. Proposition 7: Texas should have a clean and healthy environment that includes water, air, and biodiversity. Texas must preserve the state's natural, cultural, scenic, and recreational resources.
As long as there's no Sharia law.
Correct.
I mean, yes, yes, of
This
course,
is
right? Like,
I'm just
yes.
I'm just reading
This is a
statements.
this is a third grader's essay summary.
Correct. My God. Oh, I'm going to vote Republican now just because of this. No, I'm joking. Proposition 8: Texas should legalize cannabis for adults and automatically expunge criminal records for past low-level cannabis offenses. Yes.
Let's do it. Yep.
Yeah, that's actually real. Uh, Proposition 9: Texas should raise salaries to at least the national average and should provide the cost of living to increase based on the National Consumer Price Index every 2 years to current/retired school and state employees. Okay. It
Yes,
saved
the
that saved it at the end. I thought this was talking about in general. I was like, oh my God.
no,
Uh,
this is also actually a policy that is smart and needs to be. Texas pays its teachers shit.
Yeah, agree. That I get behind. Proposition 10: Texas should ban racially motivated redistricting, ban mid-decade redistricting, and create a nonpartisan redistricting board to redraw lines every 10 years.
Yes, this is the gerrymandering question, right? And what I really, really hope that to me, I would get like a year of joy if in 2026 midterms in Texas and other states that have redistricted red, the mid cycle redistricting, if all of a sudden Republicans are like, this shit is illegal, we need to ban this. Blah. So like hard yes on this one, and nothing would give me greater joy than the whole thing blows up in the Republicans' faces, and all of a sudden they're like, well, we can't do that again. We got to ban that shit.
This blows up on
In which case, by the way, the Democrats should hold firm and be like, yes, we do need to ban it.
Yeah. Great. Yes, 1,000% agree on that. Okay, Proposition 11. The working class should be eligible for greater federal income tax relief and have their tax burden fairly shifted onto the wealthiest.
Yeah, I mean that's just more progressive income tax, tax the wealthy stuff. Yep, any good
Yep,
lefties for that.
sure. Proposition 12. Texas should expand accessible public transportation opportunities in rural and urban communities so residents can get to their workspaces, schools, and healthcare.
I mean, yeah, I heard that my first commercial at the ever the other day for Life Flight for rural areas. You know, Life Flight insurance if you live in rural areas and you don't
Yeah.
want to pay $40,000 to go to the hospital via helicopter. Yeah, whatever we can do to make in rural Texas is a major problem. Whatever can be done to shorten the distance and make it easier for people who need to get to a hospital is good policy.
Proposition 13. Texas should prevent individuals with a history of domestic abuse from purchasing firearms by implementing red flag laws.
Yeah, I'm a fan of red flag laws. We know how that's gone in the past. Police departments almost always are in favor of red flag laws. A domestic abuser with a gun is a lethal individual. You
Yeah,
know,
and
it's
the most likely to kill somebody, right?
that's right. I mean, I think
Yep.
if we call them a Democrat and put them in front of an ICE agent, we'll solve the problem, and all of a sudden, them having a gun won't be so favorable. But no, all joking aside, that's been a serious issue forever. That should be something that honestly both parties get around. I've never understood why when every county sheriff is saying, "No, this is a good idea," Republicans are still like, "No, fuck you."
All right. We got to make this. We're way over time today, Owen.
It'll be a quick shut the
For
fuck up. It'll be quick.
okay, so who we
It's
telling
it's
to shut the
an
fuck up
it,
today?
this is an Olympic themed shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Yes.
Yes, shut the fuck up. Anybody who watches someone like Ilya Malinin fail and is critical of that person. Okay. There's a bargain I believe we make with Olympians, right? We get every 4 years to parachute into sports that we never ever pay attention to, and we get some enjoyment about it, and we get to wave a flag and root for the United States, and we get to act like experts in knowing the difference between a quad lutz and a quad axle. Don't fucking know, and we get to talk about twizzles, okay? And what they get in return is the chance to fulfill a lifelong dream. And that balance is so out of whack when you actually think about it, right? Like Ilya Malinin, and he handled this with grace, but I imagine if he didn't, like Simone Biles in Tokyo, when she had to pull out of her events because she got lost in the air and didn't want to fucking kill herself by landing on her neck. Okay. And she pulled out, and everybody was like, "You don't love your country," and people are going all crazy on her. No, don't do that. If you want to do that, shut the fuck up for a second because these are lifelong dreams. Okay.
Mhm.
And I don't mean lifelong dreams in the sense of like, I want to be an astronaut. Okay.
Yeah.
Of a 6 year old being like, I want to be an astronaut. Okay. These are lifelong dreams that require hours, 4 hours a day of practice for 15 probably of he's 21 years old. He probably 15 of his 21 years. He's probably been practicing on the ice 20 hours a week, right? It's dominated his family's life. It's dominated everything that they do for the entirety of his life. And I'm actually going to get emotional here, right? Because like
Yeah.
I have a daughter who has Olympic dreams and she's got a shot. It's a long shot for anybody and it's a long shot for her, but she's got a shot. And if she were to make it and to fail and to get shit for that, I would just want to kill anybody,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not the same as like, I want a promotion. It's a full family affair. It's these kids devoting more than most adults, and when I say most, I mean 99% of adults, devote to any single thing. The dedication, the work ethic, the drive that never, ever, ever stops through fights, through bullying, through bad coaches, through puberty, through sickness. It never, ever, ever stops. And now this guy was touted as the big star, the biggest star in the Olympics, the amount of money that was going to come his way had he won.
Hmm.
The and he choked, right? and there's no joy, and there should be no joy in that. There should be no schadenfreude in seeing him fail. You're an asshole if that's what you think. And then for him in particular, right, the grace to sit there with a camera on him for the next 10, 12 minutes nonstop. That camera was here,
Yeah.
right? For every thought, every feeling, every emotion at an opportunity being missed that won't come again for 4 years, if it comes again at all. And then to have to do an interview with NBC in front of tens of millions of people and strike the right chord, incredible,
Yeah.
incredible poise. And I couldn't watch it. Like,
Yeah.
I literally couldn't watch it. I knew he had fallen twice. It came over the news. I came home and, my wife and younger daughter were watching it and he had just started and I left the house. I went into the garage. I was like, I cannot, I can't watch
Yeah.
this. So if you're watching that and you can't see what it means to that guy and that family and the lost opportunity, man, shut the fuck up, please. Because you're inhuman. You're incapable of empathy in a way that's sick.
Yep.
And you should shut the fuck up.
It's a good one today, Owen. We needed a more lighthearted shut the fuck up after I mean, we've had a few intense ones, so, and that's a well-deserved one too.
Cool.
All right, what are we talking about next week, Owen?
I don't know.
No, we
I'm
don't know.
drained. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
drained.
we're gonna take next week. No, we're not taking next
No, we're
week
not
off.
taking next week
We're
off. I'm drained from this one. This was a good one. I like this one. I like when I'm drained after these things.
Yeah, this one that there's a lot of arms and legs, and honestly, I think we need to. There's going to be some stuff that pops up in the next couple weeks, so there may be something that we want to jump into.
You know what might be
Um,
fun? We
what's
might
that?
do like a month or like our last 6 episodes in review and tie them to current events because I'm always kind of impressed. I think we're doing a good job of picking really topical things to talk about. So we could talk about like Trump's voter ID executive order thing, and we could talk about what's happened with AI and Anthropic and the
Yeah,
doomsayer, the doomer. We could just kind of go back and revisit all this stuff. That might be fun.
let's do it. Let's do maybe a general update episode. Go
Yeah.
back and pull a few of the things that we've said, and then fast forward and see how they're panning out now. Maybe even if we said some dumb shit and we need to correct it. So might be some good
Yep.
stuff in there. So, all right. Well, see you next week.
Later, bud. No, man, it's the fucking good angel and the bad angel. The bad angel says, "You fucking knew it. We've known Trump for 10 years. He wasn't this great representative of the American people in 2018. He was a corrupt piece of shit then. He was just less corrupt and maybe smelled slightly less bad. In 2024, after in the third election, if you're voting for this guy and regretting it now, if you're one of those 8% that would switch your votes to now a year later, where the fuck were you? Like, I get it. Dems suck. They didn't like Biden. I get all of that. But no, there's a certain like you have to defend. I need a defense before you just be like, well, I guess I was wrong. It's like, no, yeah, you were fucking wrong.
You're wrong.
And tell me more. Okay, this isn't like 5 Hail Marys and the sign of the cross and you're done. Because we're in this shit for 3 more years. Like, this shit has fucking consequences, and I need more.
Yeah. Well, and I think we're starting to see it now for sure, because the biggest donors to the Trump, campaign was the Epstein class. Like, these dudes knew that if after Ghislaine's trial was over and she had already lost the appeals, I think they all knew that they were toast if Trump didn't get in office. So yeah, I think Elon specifically, the amount of money he spent and potentially shines a little bit more of a light on what happened with Doge, because I wouldn't be surprised if Doge's actual goal was to collect the Epstein files and get rid of them, which is why there's only 4 guys involved in the you know process of that, and one of them's name was Dickhead or
Big
something like that.
balls. Yeah, big
Big balls.
balls. No, I actually think that it wasn't. I don't quite go that far. I think that Doge was that's why all these folks vote for him and bankroll him, because they wanted the opportunity to put a guy like Elon Musk in power to go through and decimate the NLRB and decimate OSHA and decimate the EPA and decimate all these regulatory agencies that cost them money. That mean that say to them, you can't pollute the environment and you have to respect workers. And if people fucking organize and want to have a union, you have to respect that and pay attention to it. And that's all shit that they never ever ever want. They never wanted it from the beginning. The Epstein was a throwaway. I think it was a throwaway for them. They were like, cool, yeah, people want the Epstein files. I also don't have any faith at all that Harris would have aggressively released the Epstein files. I
Oh,
think
I agree
that
with that. Yeah.
so,
I think the Democrats were equally as tied into like the cover up of all of that stuff on the outset. I think the only difference is because Trump ran on releasing the files, that people, and then put two or three people that literally had podcasts that were about releasing the Epstein files.
at the head of the FBI.
Yeah, and now that dude is responsible for potentially the biggest cover up in the history of the world. So we'll, yeah, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, you've signed your own, death warrants or whatever you want to call them, because anything you're getting paid, which also further for me, I'm like, man, if there's one thing, if you really want to expose all of this, just force everybody to expose the crypto transactions, like force a paper trail on the crypto. Like they're paying for this all through Bitcoin. So and
we're not ready to see that.
Yeah, but
as a population, as a country, me as an individual, I am not fucking ready to see the scope of the corruption through cryptocurrency.
That might actually be the thing that does it, that gets us to just be like, all right, we need a hard reset. They're all gone. We're getting everybody out and we're just starting again. Like,
no, that's where I'd like move to a fucking wherever they're filming the last season of Alone in northern Canada, and I'll just be like, cool, massive pike. I'm hungry.
I don't blame you. I'm right there with you. All right. Let's get this thing started. I'll tag this little intro into the podcast somewhere.
Yeah,
it'll be fun. Little bonus footage for anybody that actually listens to us regularly.
That's right.
There are a few of them. We got like
this should be our shorts. This should be like a YouTube short.
I can make that.
Behind the scenes, and behind the scenes in front of the episode before we speak.
before we speak. Before you speak.
It's not bad.
All right. Well,